Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Oh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central.
Round the Hay Bale Unscripted is brought to you by...
With gardening season at an end, Cayce certified organic products are still what your soil needs.
From overwintering fruit trees to preparing your soil for spring, Cayce calcium-based fertilizer gives the essential minerals they need to thrive.
Applying Cayce to agricultural soils and water has been proven to increase plant and crop yields while making vegetables and grains healthier and more nutritious.
In addition, Cayce can help restore the nutrient balance in animals when they are fed plants grown using Cayce in both soil and water.
To check out all of Cayce's organic products, visit cayce.com and use the promo code HAYBALE for 10% off your purchase.
Grab a cup of joe and gather round the hay bale with your hosts, Alicia from Country Mama Musings, Anne from Andale Homestead, Cayce from Ormsby Farms, and Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch. Now, here they are, unscripted. Hey, y'all. Hey!
Woo! Good morning, everybody. Hey, y'all, hey. Welcome to Round the Hay Bale Unscripted. I'm Alicia from Country Mama Musings.
I'm Anne from Andale Homestead.
Hello, everyone. It's Cayce from Ormsby Farms.
And I'm Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch. Okay, so on today's episode, we are talking about our must-have items on each of our prepper list. We're getting everything together and we are going to give it to you. And we've been thinking about this a lot lately. You know, we've been tagged in some posts on social media as a group, and we were really excited and thankful that some people had actually posted and tagged Round the Hay Bale. But due to the current climate in America and the current events that are going on, we really felt like, first of all, we really appreciated you for kind of alerting to us as all these things that were going on. But second of all, we really thought it was time for us to be really real about it and put out our own list of the must-haves that we four together have kind of accumulated. And it's going to be out there for you guys to look at and get a hold of. And you should listen up today because we think, honestly, even though we've sprinkled these items throughout quite a bit of our podcast this season, I think honestly, and I think my co-host will agree, that this may be one of the most valuable podcasts of our entire season because we're getting it all together for you right here in this one episode where you can look at what we've got. We're also going to offer up some recipes, and there's just so much in this episode, and we really hope you'll stick around and listen to what we've got to say because we think it's really important.
Absolutely. I think it's really important as well. And some of if it's okay, I'll just go ahead and start off with some of my items on my list that I particularly think are important. Our family happened to live through a pretty awful hurricane, and it was Isabel back in 2000, over 20 years ago. But it was something that taught us a big lesson. We went over 3 weeks without electricity, over 2 weeks without water. And although we were staying at home, we got caught on the blind side. And we had promised each other in our family that that would not happen again. So priorities on my list: water. You have to have some type of water filtration system. We happen to be blessed to have a creek in our backyard, but in a flooding situation, which happened in this storm, our waters had gasoline. It had dead animals. It had a lot of extra waste in it. So our creek was not something that we were going to be able to use for anything except flushing the toilets. So we did purchase a life straw for each family member. We purchased a Berkey water system to be able to have filtered water that we try to keep fresh each day, especially if there's any type of weather situation that's coming our way. We also have the insulated thermoses that have their own water purification system in there. So water is a big deal. You got to have water. And quite frankly, most of the time when anything happens, it's in the middle of the night, in the dark, right? I've got to have lights. I have to have some lights in my home. And so I suggest that we get flashlights. Make sure that your flashlights have batteries, that we have batteries in our home, and that we have all of our chargers hooked up so that we can have lights. And Casey, what do you think? What do you think about these two items?
Well, I wanted to say, because you mentioned the life straw, and I was currently gifted a life straw by a friend. And for the listeners that don't know what we mean or what is a life straw, did you want to kind of explain the concept of
Sure.
what a life straw is and why it's so important?
Absolutely. It's a filter system, and I have actually tried ours out. Many of us get these supplies and we think we're good because we have them in our closet or in our to go buckets or things like that. But if you haven't actually tried it out, you need to do so. For one thing, this is a life straw that has a filter that is supposed to filter out 99% of any kind of germs or bacteria. It has a straw that you put on the end of this filter system that it has the mouthpiece on the end of the filter system, but the straw is down so that you can actually drink water out of a mud puddle or water that's in a ditch, something like that. Now, this particular life straw, when I used it from our creek water when it was not nasty with grease and gas and dead animals. But I did get some creek water and drank through it. It tastes a little different. It does taste a little different. Has a little charcoal taste to it. But at least I know that it's fresh or fresher than putting my hand down in the creek and drinking creek water. So that's important. To use your preps is extremely important to learn how to work them, not just purchase them and have them. If you have all kinds of items, which we'll be going over, a whole bunch of other people are going to be going over some things. Also, I want to have fuel. We have since then purchased a generator. Well, what good is your generator going to do if you don't have any gasoline? So you have some extra cans. We have a few empty cans of gas in the garage now, but out in our shed, we do have some cans of gas. There's different types of gas. There is gas that is like our normal regular gas that will evaporate in a very short period of time. You try to get the higher grade gasoline, and that does not evaporate as quickly. Every year, you need to replace it. But when it starts getting close to those times, we use it in the lawnmower and the boat and things like that. But to have gas and propane and charcoal, any kind of thing that can help you prepare your food. We also have non-perishable food on hand. We can, a lot of things. And I want my pet. I've got a 14-year-old puppy dog that I want to be able to make sure that he's well looked after. So we have some pet supplies that I have this little teeny dog, but it is much cheaper for us to buy a big bag of dog food. And then I will, what do you call it? Oh my gosh, Ziploc. It's not Ziploc. It's vacuum seal. I will vacuum seal smaller bags. So he's got 6 months worth of dog food in the house in vacuum sealed containers. Also, one thing, and this is one of my last items on my list. I learned from that storm that you need cash. None of us carry cash around much anymore. I certainly don't. If I have $1 in my pocketbook, I'm doing really well. I use my debit card all the time. When the electricity goes off, it went off in our entire county, all over the place. Gas pumps didn't work. The grocery store didn't work. Now, they were able to turn on a generator, but they couldn't take my debit card. I had to have cash. So these are some things that I think are pretty important that in the Dale household we try to keep on hand. And Alicia, you had a wonderful list as well.
I do. I have a pretty comprehensive list that we use here at the farm, um, as our just in case, because we live in tornado country and we live in severe weather country and we live in blizzard and ice storm country. We have all of these different things that may come at us with very little to no warning. And, we were discussing during one of our radio shows recently, there was a time we didn't have power for a few days because for something you're not even prepared for. If there's a storm coming in, but
Absolutely.
you don't know when somebody's going to drive off the road and take out a power pole and take out the transformer.
That's
Right.
right.
And,
Right.
now you're in trouble for a few days. So one thing here on the farm and one thing I like to share with, my friends and my subscribers over on YouTube and on social media is you have to be ready to grab your stuff in a heartbeat and be able to be self-sustainable on your property without all of those luxuries like running water and electricity and your stove and things like that. So on my list for like if I was going to grab right now, if Papa Jim said we got 5 minutes to get out of the house, even though we would plan on bugging in if we didn't have the house because say a tornado hit it and the house is going to fall down the next day, the house is going to fall down. We got 5 minutes to run in there and get what we can before it collapses. I'm going to grab our solar oven because I can do a lot of things with the solar oven. I can prepare a lot of our food without using that precious fuel, the propane and the gasoline for other things and even our firewood. I can save that for something else because why not use the solar oven? The solar is free. That's free energy right there that you can use to start preparing your food. Now you can do a lot of things in that solar oven. You can bake bread. You can cook your meals. You can sanitize your water. There are different things you can do with that solar oven. You can dehydrate. There's lots of stuff you can do. So in a pinch, if you're going to be without all of those, uh, con- how do you say it? Creature comforts,
Right.
for 3, 4, 5 days, that's going to do a lot for you just having that solar oven. But you have to have something to put in the solar oven to do all of the work. So on my list, I always want to make sure that we have a really sturdy cast iron Dutch oven because the Dutch oven is going to work on top of my rocket stove. It's going to work in my solar oven. It's going to work on a campfire. There are all things you can do with that cast iron Dutch oven. So, and you can purify your water in it. There's so much you can do in it.
That's right.
Now, you
Now,
mentioned that the
Alicia,
water
on
was
the
very, yeah.
well, I was going to say on the solar oven, just for listeners, because I know I've looked them up, but what is the price range usually if you're looking into getting a like solar oven, and is there any kind of like name brand that you, Alicia, Country Mama Musings, think is the best, one of the ones that you probably should lean towards
I,
or invest in?
I personally have an all American Sun oven. And they are on the higher end of the price range. And you can get them with a complete kit that comes with, your little cookware and a rack that'll hold a turkey and all kinds of things. And, they are in the $400 to $450 price range. But it is one of the best investments that we've made here on the homestead. However, if that's not in your price range and you are talking about having something that's going to be maybe you'll never use it. I use mine all the time, whether there's an emergency or not. I use it all summer. I've
Awesome.
even I've even made muffins when it's negative 11 degrees outside and there's snow. So I mean, as long as the sun is available, you can utilize it. But there are some available on Amazon that $20, $30, $40. They're just kind of a reflector shield thing that you can use. It works. You can take one of those reflectors that you put in your windshield to keep the sun out of your car. You can fashion a homemade DIY solar oven and actually cook your food in it. So there are different ways that you could do that. I just think it's important that you have the availability of it. You don't
Right.
have to go out and spend the $450 if you don't want to, although I think it's a very smart investment. I know families that have two of them and they do a lot of their cooking in it. But it's important that you know that you have other options in addition to your
Yes.
barbecues, your outdoor grills, the open fire. your rocket stove, you have something else in your repertoire to really get you going during those times. So now, like Miss Andale said, you have to have water. It's very important. We don't store our well water here on the farm because we have a high iron content, and then it just kind of turns brown and everything settles to the bottom. Nobody wants to mess with that. But we do get some reverse osmosis water, and we get it in 5-gallon jugs. We have a pretty high turnover because that's just one of the things we do here on the farm. But if we need to bug out, and like I said, if Papa Jim says you got 5 minutes to grab everything, we're going to grab a couple of those 5 gallons. We're going to take them to wherever it is we're going to go on the property here that's safe for us to set up camp. And the last thing you want to do is to have poor Papa Jim away doing something with a hacksaw somewhere and me thinking I need some water. And I'm going to try to pour water out of that 5-gallon jug and I'm going to spill it because I don't have the upper body strength for that. But they do have these really neat electric pumps that go right onto the top of your 5-gallon, like a Sparklets bottle. It's USB charged, and we only charge it maybe once every 1 or 2 weeks. And it sits right on top of that, and you just push a button, and it just spits it out just like your little RO, your reverse osmosis little faucet that some people have on the side of their sink. It's got that little nozzle. It's just like that. It pumps that water out. And that's going to be something that's going to be really, really handy. If we're camped out in the summer kitchen for a week or something, that is the perfect way for us to get water. So I really think every home, every homestead, apartment, anything, they need to have one of these little pumps so that you can pump out that water clean and safely. And it's just so handy.
I like that.
You mentioned being without power for a long time. We have had that instance where we've had all of a sudden no power at 10 o'clock at night, and we were talking about light. One thing that we have is in the main area where we spend most of our time in the evenings, which is going to be the living room. Right there on a large piece of furniture, we have those little strips that have the hooks on them, and we have LED headlamps. And they fit right over your head with an elastic band. You push a little button and you've got a headlamp. Now you can get into your blackout box. Now you can get into your first aid kit, whatever you need, and you've got 2 hands to work with as opposed to the one hand. The other thing is the other room that we spend the most of the time is after dark is our bedroom. And if we don't have power all of a sudden, we have those little lights that you just push on them. They're little. They're not battery operated. I don't think they have double A's. They've got the little tiny little batteries. But it's almost like, remember that game Simon Says and you push the little thing, or Boggle? It's just a little push light, and it has that really soft white light that comes on. We love those. We have one on each side of our bed in case we need them. We've got them in the guest room when we have company and they need to get up in the middle of the night, because this old farmhouse, we don't have lamps next to the bed. We've just got the one switch on the other side of the wall. So they can push that little light to turn a light on so they can get up in the middle of the night. I think they're really handy to have in case you lose power and you're not where you can get to that LED headlamp real quick. And the last thing, well, I've got 2 more things on my list. Regardless of whether you're talking about springtime, summertime, wintertime, I think it's very, very important for every household to have something that they could set up for shelter, whether that be you want to consider it a full-on shelter or a microclimate. We have a 2-person tent that 1 person can set up. It just pops right up once you take it out of its case, and we can set it up wherever we need it. If we're experiencing a blizzard and we lose power and things are getting cold, we can set it up as a microclimate. If something has happened to the house and we're having to bug out, we can't use our summer kitchen for shelter, we can set it up and out in the pasture in the shade of something, and we can set up a tent if it happens to be spring or summertime. So it's important that we have some type of shelter, because if it starts to rain or whatever, we've got that taken care of. And then lastly, in addition to all these other things, if you're going to have to set up something like that for long-term 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and you're not able to be in your home and you don't have power, you don't have running water, it's really good to have an outdoor commode, a latrine, an outdoor potty, because you don't want to be in a situation where, like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I got to go and you don't have a place to go, and you don't think you need that. But when you're searching around, looking around for where am I going to do my business, it's important to have something on your property where you can do that. And I guarantee you have a porta potty and toilet paper, you're going to be everybody's best friend. Casey?
I was going to say that I actually had purchased because I was wanting to do another bathroom in my house, and until I had gotten that done, I was looking at more, I don't want to call them porta potties, but it was kind of like a camp out toilet. And when I saw it, there are some that are really nice looking, like has the seat, has somewhere for you to put a roll of toilet paper, and I paid $25 for one that's about 2.5 feet off the ground. It's
Wow.
plastic. It has a little bucket that you can take out and dump and rinse. And I put that in our storm shelter now, because I mean, you never know how long you'll be in a storm shelter. So, that's a really, really good one to have on your list, Alicia, is somewhere to release bodily functions.
There you go. There you go. Well, I mean, eating, light, water, you're gonna need a place to go. That's for sure. And so, Monica, you had a list that was going on.
Are you enjoying the Hay Bale topics? To learn more, click on the Linktree link to get all of our product recommendations, along with discount codes and more.
Oh, and here she comes. She's gonna come right back in.
I can. Sorry, my mic was not coming on here. Yeah, I do actually. And I didn't really I had a lot of the ones you guys had. Like they were in my mind and I was trying not to duplicate the same ones. And one of the ones I think, obviously going to the potty is very important. Having fire, having electricity, having those, having chargers, having all those things, super important. I think too, it's really important with all the things that you're doing. We really need to make sure we have the medicines that we need. That was one of the more important ones for me. Now, whether it's oils or homeopathy, whatever you do for medicines or for things that you would need, you need that. I mean, even right now, I'm dealing with a stuffy nose, right? And so in the morning, when you wake up, when you go to bed with a stuffy nose, you can wake up in the morning with an insane sinus headache. If you don't have natural ways to take care of that, if you don't know how to handle those things, you need to get stuff to know how to do it. Besides having your regular medicines, don't forget your prescription medicines. You just need your medical stuff in that way. And it's not just like first aid wise, because I know that's something that Cayce was interested in, but beyond that, you need your homeopathy, you need your oils, you need your medicines. But if you don't know what medicines or how to use the things, you need to have the paper books. And that was another thing on my list, was the paper books. It's really important for you to know not just how to do them, but sometimes you forget. I mean, we've processed lots of animals here on our farm, and we feel like it's our responsibility to know that if we own an animal, we should know how to process it. And it doesn't mean that we, just go out there and start, we don't process our animals every week. We don't make it a habit of processing our own cattle or our own pigs or things like that. We just feel like it's a skill that we need to have because they're our responsibility. And in order for us to be good stewards of those animals, we should know how to do it. But before we had the actual skill, we had to learn. And for us, YouTube has been a huge resource. And if the grid's down or if there's an emergency and you don't have YouTube, you better have some sort of way to figure it out. And if that's paper books, because you can't get a hold of your community and your people, then grab those paper books. We have a guide. It's called Butchering. It's a wonderful book. It's a fully comprehensive guide to processing. We have a curing and smoking handbook. We also have, I know Cayce has it. It's like his Bible, the encyclopedia of country living, right? Cayce's shown it before. And we've talked about these things in past episodes, right? We were on with Gray Man Prepping, I think 2 seasons ago, he came on. And we talked about physical books to have, but it is really important to have those physical books. And I'm sure each one of us has a specific one that we could go to, because it's not all just about, processing animals. It's so much more. I have a book called Suture Like a Surgeon. You got to know how to do these things. If there's an emergency, you've got to know. I'll never forget when we had the husbands on and we talked about the Alicia, what was it? A like wound vac or a I don't know what
It's a
something about
sucking chest wound
the sucking
kit.
chest like kid like how, you've got to know that they're when in doubt, prepare for the worst, right? I mean, like you've got to have these things kind of in your mind that there could be bad things happen if there's a situation, a survival situation where grid was down and you had an emergency. What would you do? And you have something you want to
I did
share on that
on
same
that
topic?
very same topic when we had yeah, there is a little bit of reverb, but when we had that storm that obviously changed my life, there were so many trees down in our area and in our neighborhood that were everywhere. There were injuries. There were trees that went through homes, and there was one death. But there was no way for any emergency vehicles to get in here. There was no way for them to get in our neighborhood. So we had to look after each other. We had to make sure that everybody was okay. We had to get out with our own chainsaws and our own trucks and get the roads clear so at least one vehicle could get through. So we do need these books. We do need it in writing. There was no electricity. There was no YouTube, kind of thing. And so all these books that you have and that we're all gathering are so important.
And they are, and I don't know why we've got a reverb. But when you have something like what happened in your community, Miss Ann, obviously you're not going to be able to run and get those books to figure out what to do with a chainsaw and how to do that was so important. But what you do need the book on in that instance is because the ambulances can't get through. If you've got somebody with a broken arm or a broken leg,
Right.
you're going to have those books to say, okay, this is how we splint this wound. This is how I'm being told to
Okay.
stop.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay. We got it all good. Everything's
I feel
fine.
like I said something I shouldn't say.
No, that's
But
okay.
Y'all,
if
to
you
be
have
in
to
the studio
splint a
right now
wound
is
and
the
you've got
best.
it. I'm
We
like,
do
what
have
did
a
I do
few
wrong? What I feel
We have a few hand
like
gestures.
spanked.
And this is not medical advice, mind you. We are not.
No,
Yes,
not
we
but
are
it's
not nurses or
it's
doctors.
important. We're not, but it's important that you have those resources because it can make all the difference. What do you do if somebody has heat stroke?
Right.
And the important thing too is like Monica had mentioned, when something happens and you go to YouTube as a reference, that's great. If something happens, you've got a book to reference, that's great. But chances are, 9 times out of 10, in a true emergency, everything you've learned is going to fly right out the brain window anyways.
Yeah.
You're not going to remember what you've learned. You're not going to remember what you saw on that one video, and you're not going to remember the last time you looked that up in that book. But you have to have the resource available so you can refresh yourself once you get over the shock and once you pull
Okay.
yourself together. So you're going to know how to stitch someone up or stop the bleeding or what to do for them if they end up with heat stroke, what to do if there's a broken limb and how to do a splint for it. These are the types of things that we're talking about where if you find yourself in a situation where you have these types of injuries, it's good to have a reference. If you find yourself in a situation where you're going to have to be relying on the animals you have either on your own property or nearby, whether that's a wild animal or something you've grown to process, it's important to have the resource to know exactly what to do.
That's
And
right.
these are just all great little tips that you need to have. It's something to look out for. We have been talking about things you can find when you're doing yard sailing or thrift shopping. Look for these books. Look for medical supplies that you can put away into a first aid tote. Look for the things that you can use in a solar oven or on a camp stove. Things that are going to make your life a little bit better, whether it's the 2, 3, 4 days. We had that big derecho that came through Iowa a couple years ago. And my sister's community was completely wiped out. She had no power. There was no gasoline. There was no water. She had no food. She kind of lived off of peanut butter and jelly because she had no way to cook any food because she didn't have any propane. But you know
Mhm.
what she did? She went out and she got her little solar lights from her garden and she brought those in at nighttime, and that's what kind of give her a little bit of light during the nighttime. So you don't have to spend a lot of money, but you have to think outside the box and spend the right money so that if you find yourself in an unexpected situation, you have some products to glean from your home that will help get you through that time.
There you go.
Jumping off my soapbox.
And Monica, I'm sorry, we just sort of took over your list, honey, but you go ahead.
No, that's great. I think it's great to have the conversation though, if it's true, in case of emergency, but I'm thinking beyond emergencies, say the power goes out, grids down, whatever it is. And this day and age, you need to know how to be able to read a book and learn from that book. I think sometimes we're in the technology era, obviously, where we have so much in our brain all the time that we're just scrolling, going. And to be able to sit and to look at a bushcraft book, a foraging book, if you can find a book that has the wildcrafting or the foraging for your area. For instance, I have a book that's the Texas native plants. I need to know what plants are native to my area. And Alicia's shaking her head because that makes sense, right? So if your power goes out and your grid goes out, let's just say it's in the summertime and you're able to get out of your house and you do have those plants growing and you can get out there and you need something because your supplies aren't there, whether it's medical or whether it's necessity for food, whatever it is, you need to be able to go and find those things, but know that what you're eating isn't poison. I mean, look, we all have those apps on our phones. If you have an iPhone or you have Google or whatever, you can hold your phone very easily over a plant nowadays. You can hold your phone. My kids held their phone up to the dog the other day and was like, Mom, I'm pretty sure that this dog, meaning the dog that I know is a boxer because we literally bought her from a breeder. He was like, I'm pretty sure that this dog is an American Bulldog mix. And I was like, dude, she's a boxer. That's literally what she is. He's like, well, my app says. And I'm like, well, okay, well, guess what?
Yeah.
I'm telling you what she is. But we all have these apps. We all have these things. But what happens if those apps aren't there? If you don't know how to pick up a book and look at a book and learn from a book, you're going to have problems. And so I think that so many ideas, just the idea to get yourself a library. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to grab this book. That Encyclopedia of Country Living is a great book, but it's not the one book to end all. You need to know what's in your area, what you can do with it. And if that means watching videos or going and maybe you can go to our beginner's homesteading guide and go to those files that we have, the PDF files, go to your whatever groups you're a part of and download those files when you can. Make yourself an emergency book. Make yourself a binder of your favorite recipes or your favorite whatever. Get those paper books ready. Get your library ready. That is a way to be ready. One of the most important things is your library. So get your library ready. Get your, the library is the most important thing. The medicine, homeopathy, the oils. Alicia, did you have something to add on that one?
Well, when you were saying get your recipes ready, I mean, it takes me back to that story that I've shared with everyone time and time again. When things were getting tough in 2020 and we knew that there were going to be shortages of food, I said to a personal friend, you need to make sure that you have your bread recipe and your bread supplies. Get that recipe written down and get your supplies ready because things are going to get tough. And she's like, oh no, I can just get the bread recipe off the internet. And oh no, I can get the ingredients all I want because my husband works at a store. Well, then her husband couldn't get her the ingredients because they weren't there, and she couldn't get what she needed for the recipe and know what to do. She was lost, and she got in touch with me. She's like, she was heartbroken because her husband came home from work and he works at a grocery store that has a bakery. And the only thing he was able to bring home for them that night was a burnt end of a French loaf. I think that's how bad it was out here where we were. And she was crying. She's like, I don't understand. It's like, I tried to let you know ahead of time. You have to have the recipe written down and available. You have to have your flour and your yeast and your salt available. Keep it in your 5-gallon buckets with your gamma lids on it. And that way you have it in case you find yourself in a situation like this and you don't have to worry while everybody else is wiping out the stores. And I will say this because we're talking food and I know Casey's going to hit on that because he loves having this for prep. If you find yourself in a situation like we were back in 2020 where the stores were absolutely wiped out, there was nothing on the shelves.
Yeah.
Go check your vegetarian section. There will be food there. There will be. And I know that firsthand because my son called me, says, Mom, there is absolutely nothing at this Walmart. It was a super Walmart, one of those really big ones.
Yeah.
It was wiped clean. I said, son, I need you to go to the produce section. He says, Mom, there is nothing here. I said, just please go to the produce section and go to the vegetarian section. And sure enough, there was the tofu, hot dogs, vegetarian cheese, kimchi. There was this one section of vegetarian food that nobody touches because us vegetarians are crazy. But when the rubber hits the road, Mama knows the
When you're
vegetarian food's going to be there. Jumping down off of that soapbox. Casey, what's on your list?
Well, my list is pretty much all food. Now, Monica, did you finish on yours? Because before I jump up on
No.
my soapbox, because I could be on my soapbox for hours. So
Well, no, I don't mind talking off and on about mine. I mean, it doesn't have to be all
I'm
5 of mine. I mean,
sorry.
look, I do. No, you're fine. I think this is great to have these conversation because if we all 4 just gave our list and was done, then this would be the shortest, most boring episode ever because it's just one of us saying, here's our list and let's go. I think if we have great conversation about it, that makes it more because we all can learn from one each other. And that's what we're trying to do. We're really trying to learn from one another and then offer this to everyone that's listening right now because we care enough about you all out there that we really want to share not only our experiences, but what we think is important because we know that if us 4 together in different areas and different zones, dealing with different natural disasters, different weather things, different walks of life, as well as different backgrounds, if we can offer you a variety of things, then that's going to be the best way to go about it because it could be one person's list and that's great. But you're getting from 4 people and 4 different ideas. And I just think it's great, all of it. But I would say for sure another thing is a bushcraft survival knife.
yes.
I'm actually going to have it in my storefront. Eric and I were talking about that earlier. He was really trying to help me think of this list that was unique, but also something that would be really important if we were out there trying to deal with stuff. He always has a knife on him here on the ranch, and we may or may not, I won't admit to anything. But our children may get knives at young ages, pocket knives. I still think that it's something that you should give your children and teach them responsibility when they're young. I'm a big advocate for teaching children how to be responsible with the things that they're given and to give them tools to teach them young and to expect them to do hard things and big things, and be responsible with the things that they have. And so a pocket knife in the hands of a 9 or 10-year-old can be very important because they can learn those skills. Maybe it's a little multi-tool, whatever it is. And so when they get to be older, they can deal with the bigger things because if it was a situation where we needed something, they need to be responsible for that and know how to handle those things. So, my children, my older kids, my teenagers all have knives that they know how to handle. They know how to use them, whether they're in a situation out in the field, whether they're just out putting hay out with dad, they can cut that hay bale, the wrap on the hay bale.
Right.
They need to have those things here handy. Whether it's to cut open a bag of feed or whatever it is, it's nice to have. And this particular knife, the bushcraft survival knife, is really important and really handy because this is going to offer them something that's going to give them sturdiness and a lot of grip. It's going to have okay, Alicia, help me again. I cannot remember what it is. We were talking about it earlier. What is it?
It's the full tang.
It's the full tang. Okay,
It's
so
the full tang clan.
Full tang clan. So it's the knife where the actual metal goes all the way through the handle, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to give yourself a really sturdy knife. And you can use it for so many things. And if you get yourself, it's going to be an investment, but I highly suggest this investment. This is something that I'm probably going to, Eric, earmuffs, if you're listening, get Eric for Christmas. I think it's a wonderful tool to have and to make sure it's going to be different than your regular knives. It is a bushcraft knife and it's going to be one that's going to last. It's going to last a long time. And hopefully it'll outlast any type of emergency that he needs it for. So that is huge for me. Having that is a really big deal. Having gloves and extra clothing, whether it's layers for blankets or it's extra, hats and gloves, nice thick work gloves are super important, especially here on the ranch. We use leather gloves all the time, whether it's me in the garden or whether it's the boys with their, working on fencing. I mean, we deal with barbed wire fencing all the time. What happens if you're in a situation where you have to get through woods or grasses, or you have to cut through other people's property? If this was an emergency situation and you had to evacuate your home, if you have gloves on and nice heavy dirty shoes and you have clothing and you're fully clothed to your, to your arms and stuff like that, like your arms are covered, you're going to be in a better situation if you need to get away, because you're going to be covered, and things that might normally scratch you up and cause medical needs won't happen. If you have gloves to protect your body and then full clothing options, that's super important, I think, too, for a preparedness list.
Yeah, I agree.
When you're saying that, Monica, about the gloves, if everybody just thinks for a moment, think about the news footage you see after a tornado goes through a community and completely wipes out an entire neighborhood.
Yes.
You have people milling around that don't have proper shoes on, that don't have those gloves, that don't have what they need to rescue their neighbors or their family or whatever they need to do. However, and this is where, my son says all the time, there is a fine line between being prepared and being paranoid. And so we are choosing to be prepared. If you live in any type of geographical area that has a natural disaster event possibility, whether that be earthquake or a tornado, hurricanes, it's important to have something by the head of your bed that is grab and go and ready to go. Because if you have a tornado come in the middle of the night and you grab that bag on your way to the basement and your entire community is wiped out, you're going to have the sturdy shoes, and you're going to have those leather gloves in that bag, and you're going to have the headlamp so that you can see, and you are set to get out of your home and get out of an unsafe situation and then start rescuing your neighbors.
Right.
And so I really, I know you guys have heard it before, and I think it's perfect for this broadcast that we're talking about. If you don't have a little grab bag, and truly ours are in little 11-inch by 8-inch little zipper pouches. That's all it is. I'm not talking about packing a whole backpack by the head of your bed. I'm talking about something that just fits right behind the headboard, and you grab it and run down the basement. Or you grab it if there's an earthquake. Or you have it at the ready if there's going to be a hurricane and you know what the weather's going to be like. You need to take the time to really look at what you need and get it gathered up, even if you have to buy a few of these essentials and have it. If you never use it, that's awesome. But if you need it and don't have it, that's devastating. And it's just better to have it and be ready. And I can't say it enough, because we have found ourselves in the situation where we're down in the basement and it's like, oh my gosh, I wore flip-flops to the basement, and if we're hit by this tornado, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And so you learn what you need to put together. I really hope people will take that to heart. Bags by your bed, and you have to have a blackout box somewhere located in your home where you have what you need in case you find yourself in a grid down situation.
There you go.
And all of this for our listeners may seem a little overwhelming, like, oh my goodness, I've got to get this, and I got to get this, and I have to get this. But remember, one of the big things of this episode is we are putting all of the stuff that we are recommending in a list that is going to be downloadable PDF form with recipes for you to download and have in a binder. So we're basically taking away that stress level for you of like, okay, what do I do now? What do I need to get? We're basically going to have a checklist for you. This is how much we care for our followers and our listeners, and we want you to truly be prepared. Or as Miss Ann says, we want you to be ready. Because if you having checklists is just kind of, I know it's for me, it keeps my life organized. It's something that I can go and be like, okay, I can take it into a Goodwill, like we were saying, and check off things that I may need to get for my prepper kit. So as you're listening to all of us talking about these things, remember that we do have this checklist that is a PDF download on our Etsy store. If you want to go and just grab it, print it out, have it in a binder, all of this is going to be on there that we're talking about. So you don't even got to write it. You don't even have to take notes. This is not SAT training. we're
That's
taking
right.
all the hard work out of it. We have it ready for you.
Are you enjoying the Hay Bale topics? To learn more, click on the Linktree link to get all of our product recommendations, along with discount codes and more.
Yes. And one thing to remember too is these are things that we have gathered for years and months. Don't think you have to go and get every single one of these items next week. Rarely can any of us afford that. But we can afford a little bit each time that we go out, a little bit here and there. And you'd be surprised how quickly it adds up that you've got your storage.
Well, yeah. If you're going to buy yourself a new pair of shoes, what are you going to do with the old pair of shoes? Are you going to donate them? That's awesome. However, put them in that bag that goes next to your headboard, and that way you've got a pair of shoes that you know fit. They've got good laces, and they're at the ready. You don't have to get rid of them. I've got a pair right now that I need to get into my bag next to the head of the bed because they were going to go to the thrift store. I'm going to switch them out for the ones I've got in there now and get me some better shoes in there. So it doesn't necessarily even mean that you have to go out and get something new. You may have something on hand. You
That's
may have
right.
something you were going to trash or get rid of. And then it's like, wait a second, I need to rethink this because even though I don't want it to clutter my house, so I'm going to donate it, maybe I can put it somewhere where it's going to benefit me and it's out of the way and it's easy to grab in a bad situation and I've got it. I can't say it enough. I think because if you live through it enough times, then you start thinking that way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I think that's important to remember that you don't obviously go out and spend all this at once. We're just really trying to get this all together so that you don't feel too much at once. So I think I have one more item, right? So I'm thinking that I had thought about one item and then I decided I'd change it. I actually have this. I got this for Eric for his birthday and I was really excited to use it. He recently camped out with the boys and, Alicia she said tent. So I was thinking just different things that he needed. And one of the things he couldn't do was he couldn't make like a rocket stove. He was trying to do it inside of a wood piece and everything. And he was trying to make this thing. And I was like, why do you want to make a rocket stove? Why do you want to do this so much? Why do you want to do this with the wood? And he said, because I want to be able to put put your Dutch oven, the cast iron Dutch oven on top of it. And it needs to sit on something. I can't just sit it in the fire. And I was like, well, you could. He's like, yeah, I don't really want to sit in the fire. And so what I got for him, and I think it's really important, and I think it's a really good item that we have, and it's a good thing to have for your fire, is if you're going to make a fire, wherever you make your fire, have one of those like campfire grills that go over top of it.
Yes.
And so what I did was I got him this, it was folds in half and you can unfold it. And one side is just a mesh and the other side is the griddle and he can cook right on it. He can put his pot on the one side and take his cast iron, skillet and cook some bacon on that side. And on the other side, he can cook his eggs and has the ability to put it over a fire that he's cooking on. We've done Dutch oven right on the fire before, and he just wanted to do something different. He was like, I don't want to put it on the fire this time. I want to do something different. I don't want to keep doing it the same way. I want to learn how to do other things. And he kind of wanted to do something in I thought, well, if you want to use an open skillet, he's like, I don't want to do an open skillet on the actual fire. He just figured it would mess it up. It would get, something in it. It would get maybe embers in it or whatever. So yeah, that having that grate, Alicia said great, having that grate there and the griddle on the one side and the grate on the other, I am super excited for him to be able to use this. And I would definitely put that on the list of must-have items because I think it's going to be one of those things that is going to be very handy. And the fact that it folds up is very helpful too. Alicia? Yep. Did you have something you want to add for that? Because I see you moving around over there.
I was motioning because, the other important aspect of that is having some way to start that fire. So it's good that you have that flint. And a fire starting kit is a great thing to have in any kit or to put on anybody's Christmas list for somebody who's wanting to branch out and learn how to do some of these things. It's great to have a little fire starting kit.
Well, that bushcraft knife that I said a few minutes ago, that bushcraft survival knife actually has the flint and everything on it. Like it has all that in it. So it actually has a, what is it? I can't think now. It has the actual flint or it has the, Okay, hold on. I'm going to tell
It's
you.
like
It's got a
magnesium or something, isn't it?
There you go. It's made from D2 steel. It has a fire starter scraper and paracord in it, as well as it actually has a little one of those little screwdrivers that it's like like a little tool. So it has
Like
a
a
little curve to it. Oh, what is it? I'm trying to like
What?
show everybody with my
My
hands,
dad
and I
used to
can't.
have one of those. It's like a Swiss Army knife, the little thing that the Swiss Army knife
No,
thing
but
has.
it's so awesome because it has kind of everything together, and I really like it too because mainly because it has that fire starter piece to it.
Right.
And it's got the full sheath and everything go with it. It has the ferro rod. It
Yeah,
has the hold itself together. It's very strong and sturdy. It's made out of the steel. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to look at exactly what it has to it. But it's got that little piece, the little thing that comes in all of your, hold on, I'm looking to see if it shows it. It has that piece that comes in all your, when you're putting stuff together, you're putting bookshelves or any toys
Listeners,
together.
if
It has
you
a
Allen
could
little
wrench.
only
wrench.
see that
Allen
we're all
wrench.
like Googling it on the
It's an
camera.
Allen wrench. Ding,
An
ding, ding.
Allen wrench.
Allen wrench.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't think of it to save my life.
There you
Wow, okay.
All of
So
the husbands would be so disappointed that nobody
I
nobody
know.
knew that in here.
But
I
but
knew
but
it
it's
once I figured out what she was wanting
yeah.
to say because I'm
See,
married to a
yeah, thank
mechanic.
you. But it's cool because it actually comes with a ferro rod. It comes with a scraper. It comes with a paracord piece, and it comes with an Allen wrench. So you have those pieces together, kind of in your little knife package. And the knife
Yeah.
is not little; it's a big bushcraft knife. It's all together. I just thought this knife was the total package, and it is definitely pricey. But for the amount of structure and the stability that this knife has, I'm all for it, and I am very excited for this knife. So it's definitely up there on the price list on that one. But because it comes with that, I was confident in going straight for the fire griddle and grate that's collapsible because I know he's got the flint and steel and he can
Right.
go ahead and start himself a fire.
There
So
you go.
That is a great thing to have. And you had mentioned it has the paracord with it, and that was something I was going to add is,
yes.
having something stashed away that's easy to grab or easy to access that has some paracord, some bungees, and a couple of tarps. That's important too. You need
Mhm.
to have those accessible. If something hit us right now, I don't know where the tarps are and some cord, but Papa Jim knows where his stash is. Now look, as prepared as we think we are, I need to
Right.
know where those things are located. I know we've got it put together, but we need to know where it's located. And I know when we had the husbands on last time, we asked Papa Jim, "Do you know where the blackout box is?" And he had to think for a second. It's right there by the door. He knows it's right there by the door. He practically trips over it every day. But right there, put on the spot. He was put under pressure and he couldn't think of where it was. So now imagine if, all of a sudden it's your bug out box and the fire's encroaching on your home and you got to grab your stuff and go and you have that blank mind all of a sudden. You don't know what to grab. You have to know and you have to share with each other. You grab this, I'll grab that because we all know where everything is. And I know people, and I know maybe some of our listeners might think I'm a little silly the way I'm talking, but I know people firsthand that have been in a situation where the fire has come up over the ridge. They've been told to get out of their home. They've got 5 minutes to grab what they can grab and get it in the car and go. And I have a personal friend who just cried and cried and cried when she said, I left the box with all the important papers and all of my family photos, and I grabbed a 6-pack of soda. Or it was a 12-pack, the 12-pack of soda. She goes, I grabbed soda, but I left all the important stuff. And I have another friend who is in another situation, and she left so many important things, and she grabbed a bottle of mustard. I mean, your brain just goes into this weird shutdown mode, and you don't think about what's important in that moment. I mean, imagine leaving the important paperwork and the important things in your life you can't get back. And when you're half a mile down the road and you look in your hand, it's like, why do I have a bottle of mustard in my hand?
Right.
Because your brain protects itself and it just goes into this weird shutdown mode. But if you have a backup, you've got somebody else that says, you know what, grab that box because we need it. It's good that each other knows what needs to be done in a situation. And, like Monica said, with the way current events are right now, with the way things are coming down around in our neighborhoods and, unrest here and unrest there and supply chains and all kinds of things, it's just important to know what you have on hand, know where it's at, know how to access it, and know what your responsibilities, each of you, are on your homestead. Monica?
Well, there you go. On mic. There you go. On mute. Before we get to cases, I wanted to say, another thing that really is important, and I think I got 5 on my list, but one of the things I think is really important is some sort of way for you to defend yourself. Whatever that may be for you and your family, just know how to use those items, how to grab those items in a hurry, make a plan, practice. And I won't say exactly what self-defense items you need or that suggestion necessarily, but I will say is you need to have some sort of self-defense items in your preparedness list or in your home somewhere, so that if something happened and you were at home and you needed to prepare, you needed to defend your home or you needed to defend your family, you know how to do that. Because it's just one thing if someone's like, oh, we're going to be fine, we're just going to stay here, we're going to camp out, we're going to make our food, it's going to be fantastic. It's a little uncomfortable, but we have all the preparedness items we need. We know exactly what we're doing. My garden's right out front. And then other people are a little bit scared and they start losing their minds. And now they're coming for your garden. Now they're coming for your cattle that are in your pasture, or your turkeys that are walking around, or your chickens look mighty tasty, or your pig that's just your pet looks real good. You need to know how to be able to defend yourself or just give them whatever they want. But I feel like that's really important for you to have that plan in place and have those items in place, because, you're going to need more than just a switch off your tree. That works for little kids, not for grown adults coming for your stuff.
True. That's very true. It's unfortunate, and that part I kind of shut my little brain off. I try not to think of those things, but
you don't want to have to, but
it's the reality that you have to. And all of us girls just been talking, and Cayce hasn't even gotten to his list yet. Cayce, what's on your list?
Well, as Alicia's talking about her friend and the yellow mustard, I'm over here at my list going, all right, X out the yellow mustard. We don't want to put that on a prepared list. But no, my list when I was thinking about doing this is predominantly food. And let me tell you, always trust a fat boy when he talks about food, whether it's on a homesteading podcast or a chef or whatever it is. But all of my co-hosts have talked about how you're going to cook your food and how you're going to stay warm and how you're going to have light and get water. But if you have all those things, what are you doing in it? So I leave it to me to do food. And so in my...
Well, no, I think that's
it's very important. And most of us, we think about, we were talking about it before, and we say, well, my pantry's already stocked. My pantry's good. But for some listeners, they may be like, well, I don't have a stocked pantry. So I'm going to give a couple kind of like food must-haves that I think, one, are financially reasonable for you to stock up on, and two, will go a long way with prepping and stocking your pantry. And the first one, which I talk about all the time, like constantly, is powdered milk or milk powder. I absolutely adore Nido and IDO milk powder. And I get the number 10 can, just like you do with most freeze-dried foods, of the milk powder. And I have it stocked up. Sometimes I separate it into different jars and vacuum seal it. But the milk powder can make you multiple different dairy items that your family may need. Not only can you get milk, of course, milk from the milk powder, but you can add a little bit of cocoa powder to it and sugar, and then you have some chocolate milk from that. But you can make your cheeses. You can make anything from mozzarella cheese to cream cheese from that milk powder, but also coffee creamer. Now, it may not be as thick and delicious as half and half, but when in a pinch and you need a little bit of dairy in your coffee, that is something that you can add to it. And so I recommend having milk powder. I usually have 3 to 4 number 10 cans of milk powder in my pantry. Yes, I am that psycho person that overstocks from certain things, but I use it so much that is when I'm like, I have to have the milk powder. Next one to that I just kind of mentioned is sugar. I know me and Anne have talked about it multiple times on the podcast, but sugar is
Yes.
something that you add to a lot of recipes. A lot of recipes, not just desserts. You add some of it. Sometimes you do it to make your entree items as well. You definitely add it in there for your yeast to rise and activate in your breads. So you need the sugar for your breads. Some people need sugar for their coffee. And we all know that coffee is so important to make somebody pleasant in the morning. So if you don't have your sugar, it's a no good coffee right there. So I said sugar for my second one, along with the powdered milk and yeast. Yeast was another one. Yeast can be
Yes.
used to make a lot of stuff. All right, we always joke and talk about the moonshine. We always talk about Cayce and the moonshine. But moonshine can also be used to clean as well. The alcohol, it is a clean. You can use it as a cleaning product.
Yes.
Depending on how certain people make it, it's kind of gasoline level too.
Well,
But
it can be fuel.
it can be fuel, and yeast is one of the main components of making that shine. So if you have your water, which we've already talked about, you have the sugar, which I just talked about, you have a fruit of some type, fruit or corn or wheat or one of the things, and the yeast, you have now done a recipe for the shine.
Right.
So I said the yeast. Yeast was my third one. Fourth
I like
one
that.
I decided was going to be rice, because rice is a bulker item that you can add to any of your food
It is.
entree stuff that can extend or stretch that entree, so you're not using up as much as your precious meat that you may want to kind of portion and put out. You add some rice in there, and you can extend a meal for two to a meal for six easily. Very
Right.
and very. I don't want to say cheaply. I don't even know if that's a word, but just use just enough rice to stretch it, and it's cheap. So rice was another one of mine. And back when Alicia was talking about vegetarians, and the vegetarian stuff was one of the only things left in the grocery store, why don't you grab you some dried beans? Dried beans in your pantry that you can or soak or whatever. Beans are a great source of protein. If you don't have meat, or if you don't raise your own
Absolutely.
meats, or if you can't hunt, to get the nutrients that you need from the protein, is the dried beans. And my last one is
Yep.
jerkies. I think meat jerkies, having it, of course, that's dehydrated or sometimes freeze dried
Yep.
meats.
Oh, I
Um,
like that.
and to have that on your shelves in case of needing something, that's another source of protein, especially for kids. Give them a little beef jerky and then get that pop of protein that they need
Right.
to basically stay healthy during any type of grid down or out of power or storm situation. But I was
Right.
going to
Well, I mean, that
say
is survival food.
it is. It's the survival food, and it's very easy to make. But we also mentioned that we would have recipes in this downloadable PDF that we've been talking about tonight multiple times.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
since we've kind of ended on mine, which is food, maybe we each can talk about what
Woohoo.
our recipe is. Y'all know we love talking about food. We always get so excited when we talk about food. What our recipe is that we have added in, because we've each picked a personal recipe for you that is in this download that you can print out and add it into a binder. Or maybe you went on Amazon and bought the Country Mama Musings empty cookbook that you can fill in with all your recipes. I don't know. Maybe you've done that. So these recipes, I think, are a good thing
So
that
great.
we can add into your little stash of printed book library that Monica talked about. So I'm going to throw it to Anne first to talk about your recipe because I was really excited about Anne's when I heard hers.
Well, that's probably because it's the first one that sent the recipe to you, maybe. I don't know. But I picked ham and bean soup. It is big old navy beans that I just adore. And it's the ingredients are ham shanks or hocks because that doesn't take very much ham to be able to make these beans. You cook your beans with carrots and celery and garlic and onion, any kind of herbs that you want, and a pound of white dried beans. Now, what this shows to me, and usually what I end up doing is sticking it in the crock pot and cooking it most of the day, makes the house smell absolutely delicious. But on a cold day or a cloudy day, that just is very special to me and a comfort food to be able to have a big old pot of beans with ham and beans. And what we've done in the past is can up the leftovers. So I've got a couple of meals that are sitting in my pantry right now, ready to just be stuck in the pan and warmed up. And that it gives me peace that I know that I have some food that's ready to go. And Alicia?
Well, to go hand in hand with the items that I suggested, the solar oven and the Dutch oven that's made out of cast iron and your water and everything, the recipe that I'm providing for our little booklet is going to be a meal in a jar. And it's going to be put together with all of your dehydrated or freeze dried or shelf stable ingredients. And you put that recipe together and you put it in a mason jar. You vacuum seal it, and it's on your pantry shelf for at least 10 years of being shelf stable. And like I said before, if Papa Jim said, "Hey, we've got 5 minutes, gather up what we can get," I'm going to grab some of those meals in a jar and I'm going to take them to our new little campsite. And I know that with my water and my solar oven and my cast iron Dutch oven, I'm going to be able to cook up a comfort meal right there, just in one pan, dumping everything out of that jar and adding some water and cooking it up. And so
Mm-hmm.
my meal in a jar recipe that I'm sharing is just going to be a very simple comfort food, mac and cheese. And what I like about it is you just grab the jar. Your cheese is in there, your milk is in there, your butter powder's in there, your macaroni's in there, and all you have to do is add the water. And you don't have to separate the macaroni noodles from the cheese powder. You don't have to have extra milk to put in after the macaroni's cooked. It's all in one shot. So I'm giving you guys the recipe with the instructions on how to do that once you cook it up. And I actually wrote it out on my little recipe pages for my little book that Casey mentioned earlier. And so that's one of the things that I've put out is a meal in a jar recipe book. You might not like my recipe. You might like somebody else's recipe. I've left it blank so you can put your own stuff in. Why
That's the
not?
cutest idea ever. It's so cute. I
Well,
love that idea.
it's out there for you guys. So that's my recipe. Monica, what about you? Did you have one to share?
So my recipe is very complicated. And I,
Ice
honestly,
cubes.
I'm just thinking, I don't know if it's enough. I don't know
Not
if
ice
that people are going to be able
cubes.
to do that. It may be too hard for people, but it may be just right. So, right up my alley, I'm going with some of the preps that I have had. And one of the things that I like to do is I have homemade spam, but you can buy yourself some spam. Get it in, bulk if you have to, wherever you get it. Find it when it's on sale. Go to the dollar store. They have it there. But get yourself some spam and stick it in your pantry because you can make some rockin' fried spam sandwiches. You can make spam and cheese. You can make peanut butter and spam, peanut butter jelly and spam. You can make hot egg and cheese and spam sandwiches. You can make spam a bunch of different ways via sandwich. So all you need is get some bread, some spam, a nice cast iron griddle skill, whatever you got, and start cooking up your spam and eating it with some sandwiches because we like some cheese and spam sandwiches. Like that was good. I did it for Spam Timber last year on my YouTube, and I'm going to tell you what, my kids had a ball. So there's a lot of flavors and you can mix it up. sandwiches. That was my recipe. I'm going with simple. Keep it simple
Love it.
because
Yeah.
Love it.
that's what my kids like and that's what my husband likes. And if we've got it in there. Now, I do have my own homemade Spam, but that's not something that you're going to be able to make in a jiff. You're going to have that pre-made and canned. But
Yeah.
if you have the ability to do it, that is a recipe I can add in the recipe book. So you can give you the homemade Spam recipe. If you have an inkling, you want to get it prepared, but in a jiff, you can make yourself some sandwiches with your Spam and it's worth it. Cayce, are you
good.
making any bread so that we can make our Spam sandwiches,
I
or
was
what are you
about to
adding to
say,
our?
I mean, that was the perfect segue because my recipe is I'm known in the small town where I live as the bread man. So I am providing the Amish white bread loaf recipe that is foolproof. It is so easy. I am adding that into this recipe. So
Yeah.
I'm basically giving you how I make my money here in the small town because I believe in this
So you're
recipe
gonna
so
give
much.
so you're gonna give that bread recipe to us so that we can make our Spam sandwiches. And you can take, or you can just have it bread. You can dip it in your soup that Anne's making, or you can just have some cooked up Spam with some mac and cheese with a slice of bread and a bowl of soup to start. I mean, it sounds like a full
Correct.
meal.
It does
Okay.
sound like a full meal.
And
Full
you
meal.
with this red
No one
recipe,
is
you
going
don't
hungry.
have to. Well, no, you don't have to make it even into a loaf. Like you can make a bread little bowl. You can make one of those like artisan style roll breads. Scoop out the middle, pour
Okay.
Ann Dale's ham and bean soup right inside that bread, and
Yum.
just
There
dip
you
it up.
go.
And then you're basically fed, warm, and happy while everything else is crumbling around you in an emergency
You can
situation. But
always
at
take
least
them
you'll have
little,
bread and soup.
take some, yeah, and then you can take the Spam and chunk it up and fry it and throw it in your mac and cheese because I'm gonna tell you what, Spam in your mac and cheese is probably gonna be way good too because it's
Yeah,
just good in everything.
Monica's living for this Spam stuff that she's putting in there. And it really was good because I watched her video on the Spam grilled cheeses and I joined in on the Spam stuff too. And I had never had Spam before. That is one thing that's a
If
luxury.
any of my co-hosts ever come for a visit here at Country Mama Musings, we will have to plan a day trip to go to the Spam Museum because that's
Oh, yeah.
nearby. I've not ventured up there because I'm afraid they're going to make me eat samples.
Oh,
But
yes.
I love y'all so much. I would take you on a Spam tour.
Oh, that's true.
telling
That's true dedication.
That's
That's
love.
amazing. Look, if Spam is good enough for our military during the war, I'm not talking about our current military. I'm talking about before when they actually treated properly. I'm sorry, I had to say that out loud.
No.
They got Spam rations. I'm just saying, if it's good enough for them men that fought for our freedoms, then yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and go with it. So
Now,
Spam.
Aunt Dale, are you a Spam fan?
I am not a Spam fan. I'm not. I know, blasphemy. Monica's looking at me like I
They
have
have
3 heads.
they have maple Spam, they have bacon Spam, they have hot and spicy Spam, they have regular Spam. They have so many Spams. I
She
bet you.
sounds like she's on Forrest Gump.
Look,
Bubba
on
Gump
Bubba
shrimp,
They got
Bubba Gump Spam.
hot and spicy Spam, hot Spam, maple Spam.
No,
They
but
got bacon Spam.
let me
Fruity
tell
Pebbles
you,
Spam.
and Dale, this Spam that I did this year for Spam Timber, you may eat it for
Looks amazing.
non-spam likers, non-spam likers,
Uh-huh.
anti-spammers. I don't know how to say it,
That's
but
something.
I battered it up in eggs and panko breadcrumbs and air fried it like a
Okay.
chicken tender. And it was so good. Listen, I was the same way, Andale. When I was asked to do the Span Timber last year, I was like, no, it comes out of the jar like so, and I'm not with it if it makes
Yeah,
that sound coming out of the jar. But I tried it and it was delicioso. It is something we should all have in our prepper pantry.
I want to know since Miss Ann is not on Team Spam, is she on Team Vienna sausages?
Well, now, if I'm really hungry, I can eat a Vienna sausage with crackers. I
There we
have to
go.
have crackers. But, and potted meat, which is basically the same thing as
That's
Spam.
true. But
But,
now it begs the question: Spam or chili and a cinnamon roll?
Definitely Spam. They have jalapeno Spam. They
She's
have
still
turkey
going
Spam.
for Spam.
No,
They have
she looked it
teriyaki
up, y'all.
Spam.
If you could only see, she has Googled
They
all
have
of the
hickory
flavors.
smoked Spam. I am hickory
I
smoked
know.
Spam.
I
They
got the
even have
hickory. It's really good,
They even
actually.
have light sodium Spam. But here's the best part. Spam is literally like 5 ingredients though. Seriously though, it's pretty clean in terms of like canned meat.
well,
Like
maybe they've
it's
changed. I mean, I haven't had it since I was a little girl. And I
yes.
am 64. So in 60 years, they may have changed
It's just been a
the
few
taste
years.
of
You
Spam.
might like it now.
We had to eat it when I was younger, when my sisters and I were at home, because we just didn't have much to eat, so we would eat Spam. And it was so bad. It was so bad. Oh, it was so bad.
Well, I will say though, I was impressed with the lack of ingredients that were in it because it's literally pork ham, water, salt, sugar. That's 4 ingredients, and potato starch, and then sodium nitrate. So you've got 6 ingredients, including the water. That's it.
Okay.
6 ingredients. So for a packaged food that's going to last until,
Yeah.
eternity,
Mhm.
I
The
feel
cows
like
come
it's got,
home.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, we have cows. They come home all the time. So that's not good. We can't say that here. The
Well,
cows come
well.
home every season.
Okay. You've convinced me to buy a couple
But
of
yeah, I
cans
mean,
and put in
It's
the
made
you just
from
gotta,
ham. It's when pigs fly.
yes, there you go. But it really is. I mean, it's not like Scrapple. Like, I don't know if anybody here knows what Scrapple is. That is not a potted meat that you're going to want to like eat all the time because Scrapple is made with all the extras
Yeah.
of stuff. But you've
Now,
got Spam that's made with
But
like ham
Spam
and stuff.
tasted like to
but
me all
I
the
do have to
extras.
say that we never got a full Andale answer on Spam or cinnamon roll and chili.
She is not a Spam fan.
So she would go for the cinnamon roll chili.
Spam or
Spam or the chili and the cinnamon roll. What's worse?
I think I would have to try the chili and cinnamon roll to be able to give you a valid answer.
You would not be disappointed, I promise.
Well, I tell you what, you haven't let me down on any of your other recipes, so I'm gonna have to taste it just so that I can really tell you whether I like it or not.
Well, I've decided since Alicia has mentioned this, how do I put it, pairing
A gazillion times.
Yeah,
a
just
ton
a
of
few.
times. This episode that we are recording right now comes out on a Monday, and that is Monday, the 13th of November.
Mhm.
Ormsby
Oh, boy.
Farms will be going live that night, and I may accidentally have some wonderful guest hosts that are joining me. I may have to go and buy some cinnamon rolls and open up some of my chili and try it live on my live so that Alicia can be happy
Okay.
that one of us tried it. So, if you're listening, come over to Ormsby Farm because I'm going. Now, I refuse to try apple pie and cheese. Y'all heard how my voice got really
Cheese?
loud?
It's
Way to,
good.
way to stick
See,
to your
Aunt
guns,
Dale
Casey.
likes it. Aunt
Way to
Dale
stick to
likes
your
apple
guns.
pie with cheese. She knows.
It is
Stick to
good.
your guns, Casey. Hold true.
No, ma'am.
Miss
No,
Ann,
Well,
you've had a piece of
ma'am.
apple pie with some cheese. It's good,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's good.
It's really,
Uh-uh.
it really is.
What kind of cheese are you using?
Cheddar.
Yeah.
Cheddar cheese.
Are we talking Kraft cheese?
Cheddar.
Yeah.
We're not
Cheddar.
talking
No.
not the cheese slices. We're talking real cheddar. Real
Like
cheddar,
real cheese.
not processed cheese. Real cheddar with apple pie. I mean, if
Mhm.
you think about a charcuterie board, you've got apple slices and cheddar slices, and they go together all the time. There's nothing wrong with having it with the pie. It is good. And my co-hosts are scrunching up their faces, but I'm telling you, if they tried it, they'd like it. And I'm not talking. It's not like a whole ounce of cheddar on top of a
No.
pie.
Yeah.
It's just you just take a little bit of like grated cheddar cheese and sprinkle it on top, and
Mhm.
it's good.
Well, I
You
mean,
might
they
have to.
serve. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Miss Ann.
No, I mean, they serve apples and cheese. That's when you
That's
get
what I'm
the
saying.
little snack pieces in the grocery store. They're slices of apples and cheese,
But Miss
things
Andell,
like that.
it is not baked with cinnamon and nutmeg. Like your apple
And sugar.
pie is baked with grandma's love and Jesus, and then you gonna put some cheddar
And
cheese
you're
on
gonna
top
add.
of it. It's
Oh,
wrong.
yeah,
That's
we
like a
love
tummy
it.
ache. That's all that is.
It's grandma's love baked by Jesus, and then you sprinkle that cheese on. That's like adding the Holy Spirit right there on top. And forgive me if that's sacrilege, but that's just the way it is.
Holy Spirit
What
activate.
what that is just a bellyache, right? So you got like a good piece of pie, and then you just put on a bellyache right on top of it. My stomach be like, no, can't do it.
Well, my husband's more for the ice cream on top.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
And
I
see
do.
If
that
I'm doing anything, it's going to be ice cream or some whip.
yeah, correct.
I'm
Some
sorry,
Cool.
it's going to be apple pie with the cheese on top with the Alamo on the side.
That sounds good.
Why
too.
Well,
not?
Casey, I might have to just bite the bullet and have the cinnamon roll and chili thing too. I won't eat it probably, but I may make my children and
Like,
husband
look
try
at
it.
it.
I'll just be like,
Again, you're not
looks
pouring the
interesting.
chili on top of the cinnamon roll, although
Oh, see,
sometimes
You
we
just
do that.
no,
It's
I'm
on the
gonna, I'm
side. You
pouring it
cut
on
a little
top.
piece and dip it.
No, I'm pouring it on.
You
I'm
can do
doing
that
the
too,
whole.
because I like it
I'm
that way
doing
too.
the
It's got to
shebang.
be yeah, it's an iced cinnamon roll with your chili. It's good stuff.
Okay, I'll have to. Now you put it on the side of it.
You can put the cinnamon roll on the side, and then you just like cut a little piece or tear off a little piece. You can dip it in your chili,
Okay.
just like you would cornbread.
Well, I'm gonna have to fix some chili and try it too.
Alicia,
That's Monday night.
I mean, they serve it. They serve
Alicia,
it here at school for the kids. It's their lunches.
how are you going
Well,
to
it sounds
compare
weird, but
cinnamon rolls and cornbread? Did nobody else catch that but me over here in Georgia? That she said it's like
I caught it.
cornbread.
I made a face.
I'll tell you what. I am staunch chili and cornbread until I was introduced to the cinnamon roll that made me almost vomit in my mouth. And then we tried it, and now it's like I'm making chili, and Papa Jim will say, "Are we having a cinnamon roll or are we having cornbread?" And I'll mix it up, and he's happy either way, whether it's cornbread or chili.
okay.
He's happy either way. And like I said,
Well,
it started during wartime effort when they had to start making lunches for the kids at school, and you started having the farm wives come in to make meals for the kids at school. And what did they know to make? They knew how to make chili and they knew how to make cinnamon rolls, and they paired them together. There's a history behind this food pairing
Huh.
because that's what they knew to make. And so it started hitting the kids here during lunchtime, and it's a tradition now. They still serve chili and cinnamon rolls at school in Iowa and Nebraska and some of these Midwestern states. Good stuff. But since people are talking about Spam, I just want to know, what do you like, Spam or chili and cinnamon roll?
Well, I can't really say. I've never had it, so I'll have to give that a try. Now, I am allowed to purchase cinnamon rolls, correct? I can cook my own chili. I have my chili mix here.
correct. 'Cause that's
Absolutely.
what I'll be doing.
Yeah.
Is
You can get them from the
purchasing
bakery, or
cinnamon
you
rolls.
can make up a package of Grands. I don't care.
Okay.
Good either
Well,
way.
listeners, you will see it live and in action Monday night, the 13th, November 13th. I will be dumping some chili over a cinnamon roll and eating it and blaming it all on Alicia if it goes south.
Okay, then.
I mean,
He's gonna love it.
I will say I'm really excited about the cinnamon roll. I can't deny that I'm really, really excited. Now, maybe not the cinnamon roll and the chili, but I'm really excited about cinnamon roll because that makes me happy.
Yeah, I can't
I
really-
say you keep it on the side, dip it if you like it. Then, for dramatic effect on live, dump that chili on top of it if you like it.
Oh, well, there's an idea. He's
all
just
about
going
staging.
for the gusto. He's going for the gusto. He's
I'm
just gonna
going
do
for
it
the
all.
gusto.
Meanwhile, Monica has done checked out. She's mentally left us.
No,
I was trying to
she's
see.
Googling
I'm trying to rationalize in my mind how these women didn't know how to make cornbread, but they knew how to make cinnamon rolls. Because I'm not buying into this story. This is a fable, okay? This is a fable. Pecos Bill, okay? Or while we got some fables up in here. So I am Googling this mess because I don't believe for one second that these mamas know how to make cinnamon rolls. I'll be like, hold on, honey, I'm gonna make your cinnamon roll.
Now,
But I don't know how to
it
make
might
cornbread.
be it might be that the government gave them surplus of flour and not necessarily a surplus of cornmeal to make the school lunches.
But sugar was in high demand, and you didn't have sugar during the war efforts because sugar was a really high demand item. So when I'm reading over here says maybe this might be a thing. The logging camps would take yesterday's leftovers to make chili and dump it over a cinnamon roll for high calories for the loggers that needed to complete their work. So they're carb loading is what they're doing. Sugar, cinnamon, carbs, and they're throwing their beanie mess all over the top of it, and they're just shoving it in their mouth. So this is because of a bunch of men cutting down wood in a forest.
You need to look up the school story.
I see it underneath of that one, but it doesn't say anything about these women knowing how to make cinnamon rolls over cornbread. I'm not buying what you're putting out there.
Monica is looking into the fake news. She is looking into she's Googling. If y'all could only see, because you just hear all of our voices, but if you saw the cameras, whenever Monica's eyes turn like full black and she starts, well, it means that she's Googling on her side computer in her studio. And we're like, okay, Monica's looking up something. We're about to get a fun fact. Fun fact alert. And that's what it was.
You're getting a fun fact where I'm putting things on my Amazon storefront as we're talking. I'm like, oh, good one. I'm going to add it to my storefront. Oh, another good one. I'm going to buy that one now.
That's the list. There you
We're making this list and I'm adding it to my own Christmas wish list for my family because I don't believe in actual like other things now. I really ask for very valuable things for the farm and for things like that. I mean, this is the type of stuff that I will ask for Christmas. These items are the gift givings, and this is what homesteaders want. This is what people that anybody out there should want for Christmas. So I know it's right now, we're putting this out in November. So I know you're making Christmas lists, and I know you're sitting there thinking, what am I going to get such and such? If you have a person that's hard to shop for, think about what we're saying because they may really appreciate one of these items on our list. And I can almost guarantee you that if we've said it, it's on one of our 4 storefronts. So if you hear one of us saying it, go to check out our storefronts because I can almost guarantee that you're going to see these items somewhere on our Amazon wish list, on our storefronts, somewhere. Because if we're not getting it already, we don't already have it, then we're getting it and we're wanting to get it ourselves or we're giving it to someone else. I mean, everything I've said, we want it. I mean, I have all the things minus the bushcraft night. I've got all these things. I bought my husband a hatchet for his birthday. I mean, like these are real items that people need. And it may not even be that they know they want it yet or they know that they need it. Yeah. You may realize that they need this more than they do.
Papa Jim might be getting one of those knives. He's got a machete, and the only thing I can not get out of my mind right now is like, is his machete full tang? Is that a full tang machete? Or do I needs to get him a full tang bushcraft knife?
Yeah, I don't know if it applies to the knife. Like, I don't know if it applies to that part of it, the full tang part. I think it only applies to the knife.
Not the machete. The machete has a handle.
Words I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm using words that I don't know very well, but yeah. I mean, honestly, though. Yeah, these are such great items to put on your list. And honestly, if you're hearing what we're saying and maybe you don't get the list, you don't download it with our recipes and everything, go back through and really check out what we've got and make yourself a wish list for your own Christmas because I'm telling you, these are items that people are going to want, are going to need, and it's going to be your best gifting for the whole entire year. Trust me. These are great ideas.
That's right.
And if you get them something that you think they might like, they open it and they're like, oh, man. Well, then you just take it back. And then you've got it. There's nothing wrong with that.
You just tell them to put it in the black bin with the yellow lid and hold it for later because they're going to need it. And over the next 5 or 6 years, you continue to buy them things for that black bin with the yellow lid. And you tell them, hold it for later. You're going to need this.
Yes.
Now, Cayce, you had shared with us one time about a housewarming gift that homesteaders love. Someone came in, they didn't bring you flowers or canned goods. What was it that they brought you?
No. Well, one of my hostess gifts was the life straw. And I had it here just because I want to learn how to actually use it. But one of the biggest housewarming gifts that I got is they came in with a full bag of venison meat for my freezer.
Yay.
And it was 2 venison roasts and a pound of ground venison. And that is, when you think of what to get a homesteader, something to stock their freezer or their canning room
Mhm.
is the best way to a homesteader's heart. And when the Calzine crap hits
It
the
is.
fan, those are the people that you want on your good side, on their good side as well. So bribing them with
That's right.
venison meat, I can
know
be
what's
bought
on the
with
good
venison meat. Yes. So yeah, it was a wonderful gift. It was a wonderful gift.
I giggle every time I think about it. I think that's awesome. And so, Alicia, it's just about time for us to say our goodbyes.
It is. We've had a really great time coming together with everyone today and sharing with you again. We want you to be prepared and not paranoid. Like I said, my son says that's just a very fine line. You need to determine what side you're going to be on. And the 4 of us here, we've decided to take an active stance with our families and be prepared as opposed to being paranoid. And we want to share that with you so that you can have that confidence to be prepared as well. So thank you to all my co-hosts. Thank you to all of you who have joined us here today. And we hope you came away with some really good ideas. Again, we're going to be putting that list together for you. So keep an eye out for that. And, we're going to be coming to you tomorrow for our live Hey Y'all Hey radio show. So make sure that you tune in for that because we'll be touching on this episode that we put together for you on prepping. And don't forget, like I said, we're going to be putting all that together for you. And look for it on our Etsy store. Right now since we're adding and there are going to be some publishing costs to get things together for you for this PDF, we're looking probably around $2.50 for that wonderful comprehensive list that we're going to have for you on the Round the Hay Bale Etsy store. More details will be coming with that. I know that I know that Cayce will be putting our link on our LINKTREE link. So make sure that you have all of that as well. So again, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you tomorrow morning. And until we see you in our next episode that will be totally unscripted like today's was, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Have a blessed week, and we will see you next time here on Round the Hay Bale.
Join your hosts back here next week on Round the Hay Bale.